So who are we? What do we know about ourselves? The most ancient writing comes to us from Sumeria, Acadia, Babylon, the city of Ur, where Abraham talked about. Cuneiform was the earliest writing, and it was so interesting. It was the end of a stilo or a pen that just made like triangular marks in clay. And that is what we have of man prior to our humanity, our civilization. High on a cliff in a town of Byzantium in Persia is an inscription placed there by Darius the Great of Persia. He had achieved the throne in a dubious manner, perhaps by arranging the assassination of his predecessor. Therefore, it was to his advantage to make the people of his empire think he was a legitimate ruler, and the inscription describes his version of his ascension to the throne at a conspicuous height, so that as many people as possible could see it. That was the nearest an ancient could get to a television speech in prime time, to make sure that as many of his subjects as possible understood the message. He had it inscribed in Persian, Assyrian, and Elamitic. In 1846, a British archaeologist, Henry Rawlinson, 1810 to 1895, managed to work his way through the Persian bureaucracy and gain permission to investigate the inscription. He scaled the almost unscalable cliff and had himself dangled along the face of it in order to copy it. It turned out to be the Rosetta Stone of the ancient cuneiform writings of the Tigris-Euphrates Valley. Making use of modern Persia as a guide, Rawlinson deciphered the inscription, and from this it was possible to read other inscriptions left by ancient civilizations in the valley. And that's where we found the Epic of Gilgamesh, the creation story that was used to create the story that we find in the Old Testament today. So who are we? And what did the writings say about us? And so we weren't the first civilization. Who came before us? Did you ever think about that? Well, listen to this. Note, this needs a little explanation. The first race of human beings who existed upon this planet were really spiritual. Their bodies were quite ethereal compared with our gross organisms, but were sufficiently material to be objective and tangible. They were pure and innocent, Adams and Eves, and their country was indeed a paradise. They were natural-born adepts of the highest order. This was the true golden age. It was the first spiritual race of human beings, the progenitors of humanity upon our earth. The race which followed them was termed the Silver Age in the arcane doctrine of the occult. It's very interesting. So much of the literature that we've been missing is categorized as occult. So you have to be, we've been taught not to mess with that stuff, and yet that's where so much of our authentic history lies. The descendants, although pure and able to control the psychic currents, and gods, in comparison to ourselves, were far inferior to their forefathers of the Golden Age. Both these races, and also the third, the people of the Copper Age, when they wished to die, passed peacefully away, and their bodies were immediately disintegrated by the currents of Viril. There were neither shades, shells, nor phantoms in our atmosphere in those days. The third, or Copper Age, people were as inferior to those of the Silver Age as were the silver to the golden. Mankind was on the downward cycle. Lies, deceit, and deception. I won't go on. The Bronze Age was the age right before us, the age of Moses. He was a Bronze Age man. And Moses left for us the code to humanity. And that's who we are. We're letters. We're toroidals, energy fields, and all of that is so very exciting. What I wanted to do first is talk about who we think or who we know that we are, and of what are we capable.